Welcome into the Spotlight on Wrestling Spotlight. Got a preview of really the last big pay-per-view coming up this year, AEW World's End. It's coming up on this Saturday, the 28th. Gerald Bentley here, joined by Sonny, the Man Eagle Cain, on his journey to being a cruiserweight, and from the Wrestling Junkies Podcast, the podcast dad. They're wrapping up a super successful year as they've made record-setting views and have been adding subscribers every month. So definitely reach out to YouTube and subscribe and smash the like button for them. It really is important. And if you're watching this channel on TCL Plus, that is awesome. You can also download and see us on True TV Plus. You can download that app anywhere you get your app. You can get us on Carbon TV, on Watchy TV, and on Sports.tv as well. Really appreciate everybody who downloads the app and shares it with their friends. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and a happy second night of Hanukkah as we're recording this. I think that pretty much covers everything. So let's go ahead and hit it, guys. I was personally impressed with the way AEW built up to this pay-per-view. I think having the mini residents at the Hammerstein Ballroom was a great idea because they really got the crowd behind them, and it was just a great visual. And I know, Podcast Dad, we've been talking about it. We talked about it on both of our shows that, sometimes you can have great action, but if you're in an empty, 2/3 empty arena, it just doesn't have the same ring. They definitely had the atmosphere this past weekend.
Yeah, they have. And they've been running smaller venues, and it's working. And I don't think you need to look at it as kind of a failure or anything like that. Like WWE's going through the same thing where sometimes there's just a downturn, but packing a building, whether it be small or not, looks great. I know they're coming to Cincinnati here, I think in 2 weeks, and they're running a smaller venue than what they ran last time. And I was there last time, and the arena was empty. So where they're going this time is a much smaller, more intimate setting, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I see this as an adjustment for a company that's going to just keep growing, and these are the adjustments that you have to make.
I mean, Sonny, TNA has gotten tremendous amounts of praise this year for performing to sellout crowds. Well, they announced one of their pay-per-views is coming here to the greater Kansas City area in St. Joseph. They're going to be at the St. Joseph Civic Center, which is a, kind of an old minor league hockey basketball arena. It seats about 3,000. They'll sell it out. It'll look great, but, it's all a matter of scale. I think there's something to be said, and people have to realize too, when the WWE starts every episode saying it's another sellout of Raw, they're not selling every ticket. They were just in Wichita at the arena that Wichita State plays in. They drew, according to multiple areas on X, they drew about 9,000 people to an arena that seats 14,000. So they did sell out all the tickets they made available for sale. And Sonny, you and I have both been at a bunch of independent wrestling shows where there's 500, 700 people. That can be a great crowd. The number really doesn't matter that much, does it?
No, sir. It's the atmosphere of the crowd and how the crowd get behind the wrestlers and the actual show itself. On independents, you don't really have time to tell a full story. You just know there's a babyface and the heel involved in the match, and you kind of get behind them and root for your favorite. So, no, I don't think it matters. It just depends on what kind of mood the crowd is in prior to the show.
Yeah, and then as we move into it, how did you like the actual matches? Because I think that was something unique too. The Continental Classic, it's the second year of it, and I think AEW has hit on something that's a great mix for the holiday season because it's something that's able to run between Thanksgiving and Christmas and allows a bunch of their roster to take off because you're having this tournament, a G1 style tournament, and it plays to a strength of AEW. They like to say it's where the best wrestle, so why not have some of the best wrestling matches? This is the second year. I think it's been a terrific success again this year. What do you think, Podcast? Yeah.
I mean, it helps them stand out for sure. Like you said, it's kind of like the G1. It's not as big as the G1, but it's something that we haven't seen in wrestling in a very, very long time as far as on the American side. And yeah, we're getting some very fresh matchups. We're getting some pretty good matchups. Kyle Fletcher and Shelton Benjamin is something I never thought I would see, but I'm really glad I saw it because it was a very good match. The finals look really good. I think we've seen a little bit more this year as far as like character development within the tournament, which is a lot of fun. Like, for example, Ricochet, like we're seeing this kind of slow turn with Ricochet, and it's giving him a little bit more personality because we know he's not the best on the mic, but this character that he's playing up, when, the other night when he's saying, hey, he's grabbing my hair, you don't have any hair. Like it's showing some personality, right? So I think they're doing a good job at character development a little bit more this year, and they're just going to keep building on it. Like this is something that's going to become a staple in AEW, and for good reason.
Yeah, and elevating people. I mean, Commander now, easily the best weekend of Commander's career. He's now your Ring of Honor World TV Champion, and he won a match in the Continental Classic. Shocking upset for the Commander. I mean, you've seen that, haven't you, Sonny, where you can get guys who are really good workers and they lose. I mean, that's just what they do. And you have to elevate that person if they're going to be taken seriously. Well, they need to start winning some, right?
Yes, sir. The W's in wrestling are just like the W's in pro basketball or any other sport. And it tells your strength, it builds your character. And it's much easier to go for the gold when you have a record behind you that says you've won so many matches. What I have noticed today versus in my day, the leagues are now putting up wrestlers' records per se, whereas in my day they didn't. They just said, yes, sir. In my day, they just said former this, former that, as they would introduce you to the crowd. And it's taken an adjustment for me to get used to seeing the records up there. So I just looked at it as a chance to work and a chance to make a few bucks doing what I love to do. And now it's being that with sports betting and everything else, I guess it's being that more of a win-loss type thing than how it was back in my day per se.
Oh yeah, if you're in the UK, you can stone cold bet on these results. I mean, when I was at All In, I could place a bet on the matches for AEW, and same with, you can bet on any pay-per-view event, any pay-per-view, any PLE in the UK. So yeah, there's some legitimacy to it. I mean, back in your era, the only time they mentioned a record was if it was something that was directly tied to a story, like the Mulkey brothers, who never won a match. When the Mulkey brothers won, it was a huge big deal because they got their win. So yeah, a little bit different era. Let's go ahead and show the card here as we get ready to see the world end, right? And we talked about it. We know now the semifinals. We're going to see what I think is going to be a run back of easily one of the best matches of the year. Will Ospreay taking on the protostar Kyle Fletcher. How do you feel about that match? Is this where Will Ospreay gets his win back? Because Kyle Fletcher's been on a pretty big run, and Will Ospreay's lost a few recently. What do you think, Chris?
I think you double down. I think this is Kyle Fletcher. I don't think Ospreay's hurt by losses at all. I think he's bulletproof. I think he's going to go out there and have fantastic matches no matter what, right? So you're trying to build Kyle Fletcher as a probably future world champion in your company. Well, Ospreay's already there. What better story to tell than, hey, Kyle Fletcher's 2-0 against Will Ospreay and going to the Continental Classic final. Like, give me Kyle Fletcher, because they'll run it back, have probably another match of the year contender, and just keep building that momentum with this guy that you see a lot in.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the whole package. Sonny, Kyle Fletcher, Aussie, or Will Ospreay? What do you think?
I'm a huge Will Ospreay fan, so I'm going to have to go the other direction and say Will Ospreay gets his win back here.
Okay.
I've just seen him build up, so.
Yeah, well, they've both been built up, and like podcast dad said, I mean, it really isn't going to hurt Will Ospreay any if he loses, but I'll go. One of the big conditions of the Continental Classic is there are no seconds. There's no outside interference. Don Callis has been conspicuous by his absence. I'll go with Kyle Fletcher, but I think it's by some nefarious means. I'm not sure exactly what the catch will be, but I think he cuts a few corners to get the win. On the other side of the bracket, a guy who's been cutting corners now, Ricochet, takes on the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. Okada needs to win to keep his title, his Continental Championship. I don't think Okada wins. I'm going to go with Ricochet. Sonny, who do you think here? Okada or Ricochet?
Ricochet.
All right. Well, I'm going to go against the grain again. I'm going to go Okada. Okay. I think, this first year you put the reigning champion in the finals. You can tell that story, I think, in future Continental Classics where the champion doesn't get to the finals. But I think for this first kind of rerun, put the champion in the finals. I think that kind of establishes, hey, the champion is going to get there and he's going to lose in the finals. And again, what would be the bigger win for Kyle Fletcher? Would it be Okada or would it be Ricochet? I think it would be Okada. I think if you go in there and you beat Okada for that title, that's going to, we're going to see the jetpack strapped to the back of Kyle Fletcher.
So you have Kyle Fletcher not just beating Will Ospreay, but beating Okada as well and winning the Continental Championship.
Yes. I think this is Kyle Fletcher's tournament. I as soon as he beat Ospreay and then got announced for this, I think you give him that. I don't think he's quite at the world champion level quite yet, but you put this title on him, have him defend it next year, I'm in.
Well, and if you have Kyle Fletcher with the title, Will Ospreay chasing it, that makes this Continental Championship the number 2 title in the company, doesn't it? It elevates it significantly above the TNT title, I would say.
Yes.
Sonny, the final match. Who do you think gets the win here? I think we'll have different picks. You had Will Ospreay and Ricochet advancing. Who do you think pulls out the title?
Will Ospreay.
Will Ospreay, okay. And I'll agree with that because, I mean, Will Ospreay is a instant contender for any title that he's after, but I definitely see where you're coming from with it being Kyle Fletcher's tournament because he is the star on the rise, if you will, as the protostar. So I can definitely see both ways there. It should be a great match. The International Championship, talking about championships that are kind of there, I do think Takeshita has been on a good run. There's really not a whole lot of build-up. Powerhouse Hobbs back from injury. Says he decided to turn on the Don Callis family because they didn't visit him while he was injured. Powerhouse Hobbs taking on Takeshita. I think Takeshita wins this one. I don't see Hobbs winning here. Actually, I don't see much of a chance of Hobbs winning. Sonny, Takeshita or Powerhouse Hobbs?
Takeshita.
Takeshita?
Yeah. I think it's a clean sweep here. The Powerhouse Hobbs, you didn't visit me in the hospital heel turn or face turn is kind of dumb. We've seen people feud over coffee and shampoo commercials, but this one's kind of like, okay, that was all right, whatever. It should be a good match, though. I'm excited.
Yeah. No, there's a couple of good competitors. Now, a match that I think will be good, and I think the build-up would have been dramatically better if injuries didn't befall both Adam Cole, Bebe, and MJF, delaying the outcome of this story by over a year. Adam Cole's ankle, MJF's shoulder, MJF's movies. So it's been a very slow build to the story. This is the match for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. Adam Cole going up against MJF. They need to stop just squaring off against each other. It's time for something new to come out here. But I'm going to go with Adam Cole, Bebe, because I think it's time for somebody else to have that dynamite ring. And he actually needs to win, I think, a lot more than MJF does. Chris, who do you think here?
Yeah, I think you said it best. These guys are still feuding, and it's time for this one to be done. World's End is a good name for this show because this needs to be the end of the feud. Please, we're all kind of begging you at this point. Yeah, I think Adam Cole wins. He needs it way more than MJF. Like MJF will be fine if he loses this game. He's 5-year reigning ring holder, whatever we're gonna call it. But yeah, Adam Cole needs something to sink his teeth into.
And needs to just stay healthy because he has wrestled good matches. And I do like the storyline that's underlying his matches. And, hey, you got to watch out because, he's fragile. He's had really good aggressive matches. The match with Pac was good. The match with the House of Black was very good. His match with Buddy was good. Yeah. So, it's not that he hasn't been wrestling good matches. It's just you're just kind of running in mud right now. So
you kind of cringe every time. Cringe every time you see him take a bump because you're like, oh, I don't want to. Please don't get hurt. Please don't get hurt.
And I think he's more than healthy, but I think it's a good storyline to push because it adds drama to every match. And I did like the promo segment they did this weekend with Adam Cole mentioning MJF's suddenly growing hairline and MJF saying, well, hey, I hear you're having trouble seeing your dentist. So a couple of good digs in there. It was a good segment. Sonny, Adam Cole, Bebe, or MJF?
Adam Cole.
Adam Cole, okay. And then you're ready for a new story time with Adam Cole after this, right?
Please.
Yes, sir.
Time for him to go after a title. The TBS title on the line again. Mercedes Moné, your CEO, taking on Chris Statlander in a rematch from the last pay-per-view. No Camille. Camille conspicuous by her absence, but it was actually Mercedes has had some of the best matches she's had in her AEW run of late. I don't see any chance she loses to Chris Statlander. Maybe since Chris Statlander came out to help Willow, maybe Willow comes in and she gets back in the mix for the TBS title. But I think Mercedes Moné wins again. Sonny, who do you think here? Mercedes or Chris Statlander? Formerly the world's greatest alien.
Mercedes Moné.
Okay.
Unequivocally.
Yeah, there's a price to pay when you mess with Monet. And Chris.
Yeah, I think Mercedes will win. I'm glad they're running this back because this kind of feels like the first big time feud Mercedes has had, minus Britt Baker, which didn't lead to another match. So I like that they're running this back. Like this feels like, okay, these two have great chemistry. Let's create a feud out of it. And this feels like Mercedes' biggest match so far. So
yeah,
I think Mercedes will win, but Statlander, I've always said Statlander is one of the better women that they have on the roster, and I'm glad that over the past year and a half or so that she's been getting the exposure she's been getting.
Well, and much like Adam Cole, injuries have really hit her hard. I believe she's had 2 ACLs in her tenure at AEW, which, in pro wrestling, that's about a year injury. So yeah, she's been hit hard. Let's go with the other women's matchup. for the AEW World title. A memory loss stricken Tony Storm is lurking in the shadows, back to being a rock star. But the Glamour, Mariah May, is your current champion. She is facing off against former NWA and AEW Women's World Champion Thunder Rosa in a Tijuana street fight. What do you think, Sonny? Do you see Thunder Rosa coming out in a Day of the Dead type rise, or does the Glamour retain?
I think the Glamour retains.
Yeah,
that's my pick.
Chris?
Yeah, same thing. I think Mariah May will retain. Tony Storm's going to do something in this match, I hope.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's coming out and helping Mariah May, maybe because of the memory loss or whatever. But this should be a good match. Thunder Rosa always has good showings in these street fights, cage, hardcore type matches. And Mariah's, no slouch in these matches either. So I think this has the potential to kind of steal the show at World's End. And this is kind of my sleeper pick to be match of the night.
Yeah, it should be a good match. I agree with you. I think Mariah May wins. And I do see Tony Storm lurking in the background. If you're digging in for movies to get an idea of where the story's going, The Three Faces of Eve is the basis, supposedly, for this Tony Storm character. So if you want to dig into a little Turner Classic Movies, you can get a little background as to where this may be going, because we haven't seen the final evolution of Tony Storm yet. Then finally, it is a four-way matchup for the AEW World's Championship. Jon Moxley is welcoming Hangman Adam Page, Orange Cassidy, and Switchblade Jay White into the jungle for that All Elite Wrestling Championship that he has Marina Shafir holding in the briefcase. The problem, he says, with AEW is the egos have gained control and people aren't willing to do the work. They're too busy staring at their phones, worrying about what's coming up for them, which, as a manager in my full-time job, I appreciate that. I get where he's coming from, because that is a problem facing the country. I'm not able to have a personal assistant walk around with a Halliburton briefcase and just hammer people, but I understand where Jon Moxley's coming from. I'm not sure if it's exactly well-intended as he's making it out to be, but that being said, I don't see Jon Moxley dropping the title this soon. I think he retains, and what should be a entertaining match. I really think Hangman, Jay White, and Orange Cassidy will get distracted and end up going at each other, which in a way will prove Jon Moxley's point that their egos are more in their heads than winning. Chris, what do you think coming into this one?
I think this would be a really good match. I'm glad that they're doing a four-way to kind of end the year. I thought this was what is going to lead to after the last pay-per-view, because he didn't have a clear-cut challenger and you had so many people kind of vying for the championship. My heart wants Jay White to win this so badly. I have been a huge Jay White fan forever, but I'm going to throw out a wild card. I'm going to say Christian Cage cashes in, and I think Christian Cage is going to walk out with the AEW World Championship.
I like that, yeah, because he does have the equivalent of the Money in the Bank. Yeah, and I think this is the best we've seen of Jay White. I mean, he is a former multiple-time IWGP heavyweight champion. The guy can flat go. So it is good to see him being presented seriously. Sonny, who do you think here?
Well, I've been watching a couple of the guys this year. I like John Mosley's character, but I like Orange Cassidy too, and I think the final two will be John Mosley and Orange Cassidy. But I think John Mosley will do a cheat somehow during the end of it and end up retaining the title.
Four-way match, there's no disqualification, so you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Whatever you want.
Well, that's why I think Christian is going to come out and win this, because he can pin any one of them, and you don't have to pin Moxley.
True.
So this is the match to do that, I think.
Well, and we do know who Tony Khan has multiple times said was his favorite wrestler growing up. Captain Charisma himself, Christian Cage.
Of course.
And coming back next week probably is the Rated R superstar, Adam Copeland. So what better time for Christian to have the world title than with the returning artist formerly known as Edge to go after him in Asheville, North Carolina.
That's right.
Yeah, no, good one. So we have a very split prediction for World End, which is good. I mean, that's what you want out of a card, right? You don't want it to be super predictable, because when they're super predictable, then people say, well, this is boring. And it doesn't matter how good the match is. I think we went, Sonny, you and I previewed Saturday night's main event, and we went perfect on our predictions and almost nailed all the events that led up to the win. So yeah, it was good wrestling. The show was fun, but it really wasn't super exciting because you pretty much felt, okay, this is what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So good to see a little bit of a breakaway. Well, hey, that is our preview of All Elite Wrestling's World's End coming up this Saturday night on pay-per-view, and it'll lead into the first ever Dynamite that'll be streamed on Max. That's coming up on New Year's Day. So it's a new era for AEW, and we'll be back to talk about that as we enter into 2025. It's going to be a big event because AEW's potential audience triples, which I found shocking, but I mean, it's true. It's a real number. There's 3 times as many subscribers to Max as there are to the major universal streaming services that mimic cable TV and all of cable TV. So for all the talk that's been on podcasts and shows like this about wrestling ratings, new ball game, because you've now tripled the audience, and WWE's audience is going to go, I believe, quintuple when they switch over to Netflix. It's going to be a matter if Netflix can keep the stream going, because they're 0 for 2 so far. The Tyson fight and the NFL games didn't go terribly well, but you can watch Raw at different parts of the day. I'm sure they'll keep working on it. With that, we'll wrap it up here for this World's End preview on Wrestling Spotlight. Make sure to download that True TV Plus app. Tune in and watch us on TCL Plus. Chris, where can people follow the Wrestling Junkies and see the podcast at work with Mr. Cincinnati?
Yes, so we are pushing very hard. We are 4 subscribers away from 400 on YouTube at the Wrestling Junkies Podcast. Please subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications, like Gerald said at the very beginning of the show. It really, really helps us grow the podcast to do stuff with independent wrestling that we love to do, sponsor matches, sponsor shows. So come join us there. We're usually live at 6:30 Eastern Time, 3 to 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. We have been taking a little bit, a couple days off due to the holidays here and there, but yeah, you can follow us there. And like I said, please help us get to 400. The goal is by the end of the year, get to 400, and then keep it going on.
Absolutely. Great. And Sonny, where can people keep up with you and keep track of you as we roll into the new year?
You can keep up with me on Real Sonny Cain at X. You can keep up with me at Sonny Cain on Facebook, and you can keep up with me on Sonny Cain at Sonny the Man Eagle Cain on Instagram.
There we go. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for joining us for this special preview, and we'll be back with our year-end awards coming up soon, since it's the new year.